Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful lecture on something we all value, human dignity and freedom. And we're going to look at it through the lens of a single profound gesture, prostration. It's an act that has meant both servitude and liberation, and we're about to unpack why. So what's interesting is that the lecture doesn't start with scripture. It starts by looking at the universe itself. The idea is that everything, the seasons, the rain, even a violent storm, isn't just random. It's all part of this magnificent duty, this grand process that ultimately creates and sustains life. And this gets at a really cool idea called creative destruction, a fundamental law of the cosmos. I mean, think about it. The lecturer points out that our own moon was probably born from a massive, cataclysmic collision with Earth. Total chaos, right? But out of that cosmic demolition, something new and essential for life was created. So you've got these fundamental rules of the universe, right? Constants like the speed of light or the value of pi that we simply can't change. Well, the speaker's argument is that in the same way, there are profound, unchangeable principles that govern our human existence and our dignity. They're like the constants of our moral universe. And that brings us right to the heart of the matter, to a single human act that has been a huge problem throughout history: prostration. In Arabic, sajda. It's an act that is just loaded with meaning, and so often with oppression. Think about it. When you look across all of human history, across different cultures, you see the same four physical gestures pop up again and again to signal that one person is a servant to another. Standing stiffly at attention, bowing, sitting in a specific way to show deference, and of course, the most extreme one of all, prostration, putting your forehead right on the ground. And here is the absolute crux of it. The physical act itself is neutral, but what it means, that's everything. When you prostrate to another human, you're not just lowering your body. You're basically saying, my mind is yours, my will is yours. It turns you into an object. But, the lecturer argues, if you recontextualize that exact same act, it can mean the complete opposite. So, the big question is, how did this happen? How do you take a universal symbol of human oppression and completely flip it, turning it into a declaration of freedom and individual honor? Well, the whole foundation for this idea rests on a core principle, that human beings are created with intrinsic honor. This isn't something you have to earn through money or status. It's a built-in feature of just being human. The word for this is keramet. Now, in pop culture, this word sometimes gets confused with, performing miracles or magic tricks, but its real meaning is honor. That inherent worth you're born with. And the thing is, it's not something you achieve, it's an endowment, a sacred trust that you are responsible for protecting. So how do you actually protect this honor? Well, you can think of it like needing two wings to fly. On one side, you have to know your limits. You can't take on burdens you can't carry or make promises you can't keep. That protects you from humiliating yourself. But just as important is the other wing. You have to know your value, your intrinsic worth, and that prevents others from treating you like you're less than you are. And this is where it all comes together in such a brilliant way. The Islamic prayer ritual, or salat, deliberately takes all four of those universal gestures of servitude we just talked about, the standing, the bowing, the sitting, and the prostration, and it reserves them for one recipient and one recipient only: God. They are systematically taken away from kings, from tyrants, from bosses, from anyone who might demand them. You see, this completely reframes the whole act. The emphasis totally shifts. It's not just that you're prostrating to God. The real point, the revolutionary idea, is that you are prostrating to no one else. It's a daily, physical declaration that you are not a slave to any other human being. By putting your forehead on the ground for God, you are literally training your body and soul never to do it for a person. Okay, so that's the big, powerful idea. But how does this actually translate into a practical guide for living? How do we start to see the world through this lens of protected honor? Just look at history. It's like a living textbook. So if you're ever in Egypt, don't just look at the pyramids. Ask yourself, these pharaohs who claimed they were gods, who demanded prostration, how come they couldn't even protect their own tombs from being robbed? Their power was ultimately an illusion. And it's the same story in Rome, right? You had emperors like Caligula who demanded that people worship them as gods. They took these gestures of servitude as their right. And where are they now? Their empires are dust. All that's left are these cautionary tales about human arrogance. This whole philosophy also demands that we reject this idea of blind fatalism. We have to recognize that the world works on cause and effect, which you can see everywhere in nature. The wind moves the clouds make rain, the rain grows plants, the plants feed life. It's a system. One thing follows another. And that exact same law of cause and effect applies to our own lives. True gratitude for having a mind isn't just saying thanks, it's using your mind. Gratitude for free will means making conscious choices. You can't just fail to take precautions, have things go wrong, and then blame it all on fate. That's giving up your responsibility, your honor. It's like that old saying, you have to tie your camel first and then put your trust in God. All right, so we've traveled from the cosmos to gestures of servitude to the laws of cause and effect. What's the final distilled essence of this whole philosophy? What's the ultimate takeaway? Well, it's actually hidden in plain sight, right in the central declaration of faith, La ilaha illallah. It doesn't start with an affirmation, it starts with a negation. It begins with no. La ilaha, there is no God. It is first and foremost an act of defiance, a rejection of all the false authorities, all the earthly powers, all the things that demand our ultimate loyalty, before it affirms the one true authority. And this brings us to the core message, the whole blueprint for honor in a single idea. The greatest dishonor is to be a slave to another human being. Therefore, the greatest honor has two sides of the same coin, to refuse to be a slave yourself, and just as important, to refuse to make a slave of anyone else. It's a commitment to universal dignity, which leaves us all with a pretty provocative thought to end on. If prostration is ultimately about giving away your autonomy, your highest allegiance, what are the invisible forces in our world today, corporations, ideologies, social pressures, that are subtly or maybe not so subtly demanding that from us right now?